Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half New Zealander on the home side, half Hong Konger on the away side, and both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel a few times before, albeit the New Zealand brewery hasn't featured for quite a wee while, if memory serves me correctly. Now when it comes to the Kiwi brewery, they are most definitely best known these days for their different kinds of New England Hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, but they have done a number of different styles over the years as well. But the Hong Kong brewery, I would say, are known mostly for kind of having quite light and quite sessionable beers. These guys are one of the most drinkable breweries I've ever come across actually, but they do a good variety of different styles and they're definitely worth checking out too. So the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one that I think has been brewed a couple of times by both breweries. It's a style that I have had from both of them before, one that I know both breweries can do very, very well, and I have heard very good things about this particular beer as well. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, for the home side of things, we are going to go to Wellington in New Zealand on the North Island, and we're going to have a look then at my first beer in a long time from Behemoth Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Densely Hoppulated. It comes in at 6.8% ABV, and this is a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And this one is brewed in collaboration with Hong Kong Beer Company, who are from Kwun, Tong on the Kowloon side here in the Hong Kong SAR. So yeah, this beer, I'm sure this has been released a couple of times. There is a version that is brewed by Hong Kong Beer Company as well, but I've never actually seen the cans of their version, but I think their one is 7% rather than 6.8. Either that or it was 7% the last time they released it. But yeah, I saw this one in Craftissimo in Sheung Wan over on Hong Kong Island, and I thought, you know, I really need to try this one because I'd heard about it before, but this was the very first time that I saw the cans of it. So yeah, Densely Hoppulated Hazy IPA from Behemoth Brewing Company in Wellington, New Zealand, and Hong Kong Beer Company in Kwun Tong here in Hong Kong. So let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Behemoth Brewing Company and from Hong Kong Beer Co. We will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future. I do have quite a few Behemoth beers to work my way through, in fact, but there's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in both the New Zealand playlist and the Hong Kong playlist. Those lists are both being added fairly regularly because we do get a good selection of Kiwi beer up here as well, but do make sure you check out the playlists of beers from the other countries. Like I said, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about the breweries. We'll start off with Behemoth Brewing in this case, since they are the home brewery for this beer. But yeah, so Behemoth Brewing was founded by Wellington man Andrew Childs in 2013 along with his wife Hannah, and originally Andrew studied law at Victoria University in Wellington and then at Uppsala University in my second home of Sweden before returning home and working in the legal sector of the New Zealand government. So he's always been interested in home brewing though, and on one New Year's Eve a friend said to him that he should homebrew as a resolution, and so he did that. But Hannah apparently is a butcher by trade as well. So within a year of starting his homebrewing activities, he quit his job at the government and then he went to work for Folk and Brewer, but he left quite soon after because he became frustrated at the lack of opportunity to brew, and so he entered some of his own home brewing his own homebrewed beers into a homebrewing competition, and a good few of them won prizes, which really gave him a little bit of self-confidence and showed him that he was kind of on the right track. So these beers were then brewed in a commercial batch with Stu McKinley from Yeasty Boys, and soon after he was offered a job at Imaki and Mangrove Jacks, during which time he brewed his first commercial beers, and so Behemoth Brewing was born in 2013. But over the years they continued to contract brew at various places around New Zealand, and they started exporting their beers as well. But in late 2018 they chose a site on the corner of Dominion and Charles Street in the Mount Eden area of Auckland, and a large chunk of funding for this new site was procured from crowdfunding, and the company has apparently around 700 shareholders known as shareholders, and the new site started off with a 3-vessel, 2,500 litre brew kit and 8 5,500 litre fermentation vessels and an alpha canning system. So this new facility gave them an additional brewing capacity of around 400,000 litres per year, but there is room for further expansion, and they also still contract brew a portion of their beer as well, meaning that their total output is in the region of 600,000 litres of beer per year. These days they're employing around 60 people, and they've got a few venues. They've got the main brewery, which is called Churley's Brew Pub and Eatery. This is in the Mount Eden area of Auckland. Churley's Rise in Titirangi in Western Auckland, there's Churley's CBD in Wellington, and then there's the Turtle Pizza and Pints in Green Lane in the Ellerslie area of Auckland as well. But as of March 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 830 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said to you, these days they're definitely best known for their different kinds of like New England Hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. But I had a Behemoth beer, I'm sure it was like a Riwaka or a Rakal IPA, when I was in New Zealand back in 2015, which was pretty cool. And that was my first encounter with them. Then I found one of their beers in Bamberg in Germany a few years later, which was quite interesting. So yeah, there was a lot of these guys have done quite a lot over the years, and it's nice to kind of encounter them here again in Hong Kong. But a very well known name when it comes to the New Zealand beer scene, so definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Behemoth Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, check out the brewery website, follow them on their Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to see all the different beers they've done. Little edit there as well, because I think I said at the start of the video that these guys are from Wellington. Yeah, no, they're mainly based in Auckland these days, so apologies for the lie that I told earlier. But anyway, let's go on to Hong Kong Beer Company then. So Hong Kong Beer Company, the history of them goes back to 1995, when the company was originally established as South China Brewing Company. And the man behind this original iteration of Hong Kong Beer Company was David Haynes, who is originally from Colorado over in the US. He was a clinical psychologist by trade, but also a big beer enthusiast. Now, his wife worked as a China analyst in one of the big financial firms, and she encouraged him to go for it and found his own company. So after this, he went back to the US to visit various different microbreweries and do some fact finding, and around this time he encountered a man called Peter Bordeaux, who was the president of Sazerac, quite a major American beverage distributor. And after Peter asked David a lot of questions, he agreed to help finance this startup. So it took about a year for them to navigate the Hong Kong bureaucracy, but they finally managed to get the legal right to brew beer, and they opened the brewery in the Vita Tower in Aberdeen on the south side of Hong Kong Island. They released their first beer, which was called Crooked Island Ale, and this beer was spread basically by word of mouth to different pubs around Hong Kong. So the brewery had a few years of success, but then it started to kind of struggle a little bit, and eventually it became a contract brewery. But the company was acquired by Harmony Assets in 2003, and at this point they changed the name to Hong Kong Beer Company, and Harmony were distributing the Hong Kong beers through their bar chain El Grande, but production was quite small, only about 120,000 litres of beer per year by 2009, and the quality of the beer apparently wasn't all that consistent, and eventually they ended up closing their own brewery and contract brewing it elsewhere. But later on in 2013, the brewery was purchased, or the company was purchased, by Devin Otto Kimball and Daniel Flores, who are the team behind Brewworks Brewery and restaurant down in Singapore. So they stayed involved with the brewery up until 2020, but under their guidance, the thing was basically revamped from the ground up. They brought in brewmaster Simon Pesh, who had previously worked for Pyramid Brewery in Berkeley over in California, and he stayed with with them until 2018. But they relocated the brewery to Chai Wan on the eastern part of Hong Kong Island, and there they were operating a 20 US barrel brew kit, which is around 3,200 litres per brew. This one was from GNVW Systems, and today they're producing in the region of 600,000 litres of beer per year. But there was another change in ownership in 2020, and the current brew team is headed by Philip Rankmore and Matt Bradley under the guidance of James Waters. Philip is from Sydney in Australia, and he originally studied chemical engineering and then later gained his brewing diploma from the Institute of Brewing and Distilling before going to work in Korea for Goose Island, and then also for Brewed as well. But he also spent time teaching brewers in Korea and in Hong Kong too. But then in 2024, they've been continued to expand over the last few years, but in 2024 they relocated production again to Kwun Tong in East Kowloon, and they've been working to build up this facility over the last few months. I think they might have been in there for about a year now, if I'm not mistaken. But as of March 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 95 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that's everything I can tell you about Hong Kong Beer Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all those different beers. But yeah, let's go on then and actually have a little look at this beer itself. A little bit of a longer history section for you there in this video. But as you can see, the artwork on this one is really quite nice. You can see Charlie having a good time in Hong Kong on the kind of concrete jungle apartment ding ding as they call it. But yeah, the plain silver top on the can there is nice. It's a 440 milliliter can, this one, if I am not mistaken. Does it say? I don't think it does actually, but I think that's a 440. But yeah, it says here on the side, densely hoppulated hazy IPA, teaming up to collab with Hong Kong Beer Company. We were wondering where Charlie would live if he lived in Hong Kong. Wait, that's not even a question, of course. It would be the Monster Building. So with the important questions out of the way, we moved on to create densely hoppulated. Well, it doesn't have 10,000 hops to match the residents of the mega complex. It's got just about as many as we could pack in without without causing an equipment meltdown. Don't ask how we know our limit now. Jam-packed full of flavour. This is one banger. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, it doesn't say anything on the Untappd pages about what hops and things are in this one. So yeah, we just know that it's a 6.8% New England hazy IPA. I have to say, I do like the artwork on this one. I think this is a can that I will need to keep actually. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. I've been looking forward to this one since I bought it. And as I say, I've heard pretty good things about it, so let's do this. Yes. It's been a while actually as well since I reviewed a single IPA. Of course, with the kind of transport costs and things of import beer to Hong Kong, I tend to go for the double IPAs because they're they're only like $10 more or something like that, which is, yeah, in terms of bang for your buck, you might as well go for it. But I have to say, this looks like a really, really lovely beer actually, very good looking New England IPA. So before that, I've put maybe about 80% of the beer out into the glass, but you can see this one's poured with about a half, maybe between a third and a half finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. It's kind of a soapy white head actually. If I put it up to the camera, you can get a nice look at that there. But yeah, colour wise, this is a lovely, very bright yellow colour. So there's a wee bit of sediment floating around in that one. I've maybe kept it a bit too cold in the fridge. I'll need to look at that temperature. But yeah, it looks very, very nice, I have to say. Lovely bright yellow mango juice colour. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well, but that can vary from you don't really have to care about that when it comes to different IPAs, different kinds of IPA, I should say. But yeah, in terms of the level of haze on this one, I will say that for a 6.8%er, this is pretty damn soupy and gloopy. So the level of haze in these beers, of course, depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use, and that can vary from That can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer, of course. But yeah, this is a pretty soupy and gloopy 6.8%. I have to say that. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one, just one or two bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass and a few breaking the surface. But yeah, you can see the head has faded away to be a kind of thinner, more foamy layer. But in all, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of appearance when you consider what style it is. But yeah, it looks very nice, I have to say that. Quite a handsome looking beer, this one. So let's take a wee look at the aroma of this beer then and see what it's all about. Oh, that smells pretty nice. It actually smells as if it's going to be a really big, creamy, oaty beast of a beer, but I think there's a little bit of wheat in this one as well. You can get that bitiness at the back of the nose. So yeah, lovely big, very bright green component, I would say. Quite citrusy leaning, actually. I want to say Motueka in this potentially, but yeah, lovely big green component and a mix of oaty and wheaty leaning characters. So as I've often said, with New England IPAs, for me there are 6 elements to think about with the malty and yeasty side of this beer. You've got the farmhousey yeasty side of things and the rye leaning grainy side of it as well. Those are more common in New England brewed New England IPAs because the style started off as a farmhouse IPA, but as the styles evolved and moved elsewhere, the focus is a little bit more on oaty creaminess, wheaty bitiness, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things too. Just going by the aroma of this one, Mosquito, I think this one is leaning a bit more toward the wheaty side of things, but with a nice big oaty backbone to it. So yeah, let's just break down the aroma and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth as we always do. So if we sugar this one up, you can smell there's a lovely little bit of that typical white bready bread crust in there, very fresh of course, wee elements of woodiness. Yeah, so there's a little element of woodiness to it, some Jacob's cream cracker as well. I do get a little hint of like a fresh wholemeal brown bread, but mainly like from the barley malt, it's a big fluffy white bready character that's coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely big fluffy white bready character in there. And yeah, on top of that there's a nice dense, there is quite a nice dense wheaty character to this beer as well, and you get the bitiness from the wheat at the back of your nose, definitely. But if you take the aroma in that little bit more deeply, you do get the oaty side of the beer coming out, and it's interesting because I know New Zealand produces a lot of its own malts, and of course they've got a huge hop industry down there as well. So yeah, it's interesting because I'm guessing these are New Zealand malts, but I know that Behemoth as well also like to use Weirmann malts from Germany because I've seen their beers in the Weirmann shop in Bamberg. So the malty side of this beer does actually smell quite European because the oats are very, very creamy. If you have the North American beers, the oats are a little bit more porridgey. So the oats in this are very, very creamy like European oats. But the other thing to remember about oats in a New England IPA is that they can be a very good indicator, a reasonably good indicator of how fresh your beer is, because the younger the beer is, the fresher it is, the creamier the oats are, the older they are, the older it is, the drier they are. And this beer is in pretty good condition. I think this one, it smells like it's maybe about 2 months old. You're just starting to get that little bit of dryness out of it. So I think this one's maybe 2 to 3 months old, something like that. But it still smells in pretty damn good condition. Lovely big oaty creaminess in there, the drier notes coming out as well. But yeah, there is a little touch of sweetness in the middle of this one too. So there's a wee bit of that Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. So maybe there's a slightly more brown sugary leaning malt in this one, which would explain that slightly richer, slightly ambery leaning colour, if you like, with the beer. But all in all, the malty side of this one's pretty nice. At the back of the nose, of course, you start to get more of the wheaty bitiness. Like I said, there is the yeasty character coming out of this one too, which is mostly, yeah, the yeasty character with this one is more kind of white bready and bread crusty, and there's a wee touch of like a farmhousey kind of note to this one as well. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, in this beer is very, very nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. Yeah, malty and yeasty side of this one is pretty damn nice. So on the hoppy side of things, as I said earlier, this beer has quite a pungent green component. So remember that when it comes to hopping IPAs, you have 3 different kinds of hopping you can do. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness and a deeper, danker green component. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place in the last half hour of the wort boil, little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and that gives you a very bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that is, again, is all about flavour and aroma, and that gives you a very bright green component. New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're softer and more juicy. West Coast IPAs use all 3, which is why they're oily and a bit more bitter and kind of pungent, if you like. So yeah, the way that goes together in this one is nice. This one I think has a bit of early addition hopping too, because there is that real pungency there. So the green component in this one, for me, there's a little bit of earthiness to it, lovely nice little bit of kind of bright floral aromaticity, and there's a good little bit of grassiness there, and the whole beer is kind of zesty, in all honesty. So yeah, this one, yeah, the whole beer is pretty damn zesty. So yeah, I do like how this one goes together in a sense, with the green component. It's got that big floral note and the more bitey, wheaty notes. So yeah, let's focus on the fruity side of things just to round off this aroma then, because I really want to try this one. So for me, it was lime that jumped out of this beer at me originally, so I want to say there's a bit of motueka in this one. Playing Guess the Hops is always fun, but there is a good little bit of tropical character to this one as well. I do get like a really nice, soft, juicy mango and quite a bit of apricot out of this one. It does have a bit of like a peachy, I think there's a little bit of a sharper peachy note to this one, so something along the lines of maybe like Galaxy, or, well, probably Citra's the one that's more likely to give you the peach, I would say. But the really soft tropical notes in this beer, and the complexity of the softer side of it makes me want to say Idaho 7. I really wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit of Idaho 7 and a wee bit of motueka in this. And yeah, because there's the limey notes that I get are quite soft and quite juicy, and that's usually motueka. Equinaut is the one that has the really kind of pungent limey characters. But there's definitely like a softer tropical hop in this one, and something that's a bit more citrusy there. And I really want to say lime, but there is also a tiny little hint of orange or something in there too, which, you know, that takes you down the route of like Mosaic, and I don't think Sabro could be a possibility in this one, because there's a wee tiny bit. Idaho 7 and Sabro would be plausible in this, but I want to say motueka, a bit of lime. So yeah, for me, yeah, there's a little bit of peach in there, quite a lot of juicy mango, softer apricot. I maybe want to say a wee hint of pineapple or papaya, something like that. And then yeah, there's a bit of, I want to say lime, but I do get a wee hint of like orangey character out of this one as well. So yeah, I have to admit I would be curious to see the hop profile of this one, or see the brew sheet and see exactly what they've done here. But yeah, all in all, the aroma of this one is very, very nice. So take a bit of time to enjoy that before you get stuck into it. But I think it's about time that we taste this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the densely hoppulated 6.8% New England Hazy IPA from Behemoth Brewing Company in Auckland down in New Zealand, in collaboration with Hong Kong Beer Company from Kwun Tong in Kowloon here in Hong Kong. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. Very soft, very smooth, creamy oaty leaning IPA, this one. This is interesting because I really thought this one, just from the aroma, it's funny how some beers can do that. I really thought this one was going to be more wheaty and bitey and like have a big bold green component, but it's actually a very soft, smooth and kind of creamy affair, this one. Yeah, that's not quite what I was expecting, in all honesty. Yeah. But it is a very nice beer, will say that. Just didn't lean in the direction I thought it was going to. So yeah, very soft, oaty, creamy, and more tropical leaning IPA, this one for sure. It's funny how beers can do that, it really is. But very solid effort from both of these breweries, and with this style I wouldn't expect anything less. You know, Hong Kong Beer Company, Hazy and the Hazy Days, those are both very, very nice. And of course, yeah, you have with Behemoth, they've done a bunch of hazies over the years. I've not reviewed many of those on the channel actually, but they come through, Behemoth come through Hong Kong quite a little bit, so I need to keep an eye on those actually. But yeah, really, really nicely done beer, this one. And as I say, it's been a while since I had like a lower ABV hazy IPA, so this is interesting for me too. But yeah, let's break this down then and describe it a wee bit more in depth. So middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer is that fresh white bready bread crust that you always get. And yeah, as you move further forward, on that middle third of your palate, it's you get that little bit of woodiness coming out of it. So yeah, you've got that fresh white bready bread crust in there. You've got the little bit of woodiness coming out. And then on top of that, you get the kind of Jacob's cream crackery type layer. Above that, there's a layer of like wholemeal brown bread, like a slightly more grainy, bready layer coming out of the beer. And then yeah, you can feel the more fluffy, airy. Barley malt white bready character coming out of this one, which again is very nice. So yeah, I have to say I do quite enjoy that. So yeah, above that kind of more fluffy white bready layer, you've got a really dense, wheaty white bready note out of this one. So it's a little bit more bitey further back. Yeah, so you've got that wee bit of more dense bitey character coming out of it, and you also have from the wheat, so you get that it actually smooths out. So I've often said sweeter flavours come out further forward and more bitey flavours come out further, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate. So in the wheaty bright bready layer, you've got a nice kind of smoothness further forward, but yeah, and the more bitey wheaty characters on top of that. So yeah, the barley malt bread is there, the more dense wheaty white bready characters coming out of it as well. And then on top of that you get the oaty character coming out of the beer. So yeah. So yeah, this beer really actually softens up a lot the more that you drink of it as well. So on the oaty layer of this beer, like down the middle line of your palate, you've got that really nice, you can feel there's a really nice sort of creamy oaty layer coming out of this one. So you can feel the nice creamy oatiness going down the middle line of your palate, and as you move out toward the edges of your tongue, there's a little bit more of kind of oaty dryness starts to come out of the beer. I think this one, I think this is about 2, maybe 3 months old, something like that. You can sort of taste a bit of the oaty dryness coming out, as I said. But then in the dead centre of your palate, you've got a really nice, you've got a really lovely little circle there, which is the Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and that is of course the alcohol coming out of the beer. So not too sweet. There's a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit in there as well, but I think that pretty much covers the middle third of your palate. So yeah, that does go together quite nicely. So yeah, in terms of the yeah, in terms of the back 30 palette, and as I've often said, the back 30 palette will give you very similar flavours to the middle 30 palette, just different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back 30 palette, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, then the more wheaty white bready character on top. But the base of that back 30 palette is the white bready bread crust. There's the cracker in there. You've got the brown bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy, I would say. The white bready layer above that, which again feels a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy. And then, pardon me, you've got the more dense, wheaty white bready character above that, which of course gives you a bit more bitiness. Then it's all about the yeasty character above that. So let's have a little look at the yeasty side of things. So, yeah, the yeasty side of things for me, it's a bit more like brown bready at its core. Then as you move further out from that, it's a little bit more of a, yeah, it's got a little bit more of a, how do we say, a little bit more of a kind of, yeah, like a slightly grainier white bready character, and then round the very edge, it almost feels a little bit like porridgey and oaty in a sense, like a kind of bread crusty note. So the yeasty side of this beer is pretty interesting, in all honesty. So yeah, brown bread at its core, more white bready outside, then a kind of oaty porridgey thing. But yeah, definitely back 30 palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle 30 tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, I think that covers everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of this beer. So let's go on then and have a wee look at the hoppy side of things then. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's a little bit more kind of herbal, if you like. There's maybe a little bit of woodiness, but as you move further forward from that, it's got a nice bit of like floral aromaticity. It's quite a soft and oily floral aromaticity. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it has a really nice, yeah, it's got a little bit more of a, how would you say, more of an oily, grassy sort of character to it, I would say. So yeah. So yeah, the oily grassy side of things in this is quite nice, or the green component does go together really well. But let's round off the flavour section then with a wee look at that front 30 palate and the fruity side of things. So front 30 palate, the border region between front 30 and middle 30 palate, you get that little bit of bready build up in there. The brown bread, the white bread, the more dense sweety sort of things. The backbone of the front 30 palate, the bread crust, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, and then the smoother side of the wheat comes forward. I think some of the oats creep forward there too, but then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, that definitely works with this one too. So yeah, for me, the fruity side of this one is kind of what I was expecting. For me, the fruity side of this beer, the more you drink of it, the more tropical it becomes. So I do want to say Idaho 7 in this one, in all honesty, but of course in New Zealand there's a bunch of other hops that you could put together that would do something quite similar, like, you know, Rakau and Riwaka and things like that. Kohatu's got a very nice kind of apricot-y note to it as well, from what I remember. So yeah, with this beer, it doesn't quite have the peach punch, the sort of peachy note that I was picking up from the yeah, it doesn't have that peachy kind of note that I was picking up from the aroma, if you like. But yeah, it's got a lovely soft, juicy kind of mango character to it. So yeah, lovely soft, juicy mango. Definitely as you move further forward, there's more apricot-y notes in there. There's a wee bit of a kind of pineapple-y note to it as well. But then yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's got a big kind of quite citrusy, limey character to it, which I think is Motu Ika. So yeah, the way that all kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, all in all, really quite interesting beer, this one. One where the flavour actually went a completely different direction from what I was expecting based on the aroma. So yeah, interesting stuff. Let's round off the review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer right in the middle of the spectrum, mid-bodied, carbonation is very, very smooth, quite creamy in a sense, but you also have that kind of cleanliness that you would expect of New Zealand water because it's very, very pure. IBU wise, I think this is a fairly standard 30-ish, 25 or 30 IBU, which is very, very common with this style. But yeah, you have yeah, you have this one. For me, yeah, the malty base has a little bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, a wee bit creaminess on top. It's really not that sweet, this beer, at all. But the fruitiness is very kind of soft and juicy as well. But all in all, a really quite nice beer, this one. I think this is, for me, this is one that would maybe suit being on tap a little bit better than in the can. But then again, I'm not drinking this one in its prime freshness, if you like. I'm pretty sure this beer is somewhere between 2 and 3 months old actually at the time of drinking. So yeah, that's it. But I need to try a few more of the Behemoth Hazies because this is what this brewery is really known for. Most of them that make it here to Hong Kong though are like 6.5%ers and things, but I'd be more keen to try the doubles just because of the price and things. But yeah, all in all, very, very pleased with this beer and really cool to see to feature Behemoth again on the channel after quite some time, and also to see them do a collaboration with Hong Kong Beer Company too. But yeah, this was the densely hoppulated, a 6.8% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Behemoth Brewing Company in Auckland down in New Zealand in collaboration with Hong Kong Beer Company from Kwun Tong in East Kowloon here in Hong Kong. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Hong Kong Beer Company as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, and I will see you later. Ciao just now.